Maruchan superfans are everywhere. From the busy moms who want to deliver maximum flavor in a flash to dorm room diners who want to put some slurp in their step. There are a ton of copycats you could use. But if you want to bless your bowl, there's only one true Maruchan. Whether you choose instant lunch, ramen bowls, yakisoba, or restaurant quality gold, Maruchan is the only ramen worth obsessing over. Smiles for all. Maruchan. See what all the ramen hype is about at maruchan.com.
Today on CityCast Chicago, many of us may have some out-of-town visitors this week for the Thanksgiving holiday, and maybe at some point we'll be toasting, which makes it the perfect, hilarious time to bring out the city's somehow favorite drink/prank. Of course, I'm talking about Malort. Now, I only learned about it a few years ago, but I tried the bitter drink for the very first time this summer, and yeah, here's how it went. It's Wednesday, November 22nd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. All right, so I just bought a brand new bottle of Malort for the first time ever, cracked it open. I poured shots for my friends who are currently in my house. Have you ever taken Malort before in your life?
Absolutely not.
All right, have you at least heard of it before? You know how people think of Malort in Chicago?
I have a general sense, yes.
I bet. All right, so this is your first ever shot. I don't even think it's that big of a shot. You got it. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Get some water. That was terrible. Please. We're done. That was so bad. Oh my.
Would you ever do that again?
Oh no, I'm sweating. I'm so uncomfortable right now. Absolutely not. That just tasted like lighter fluid.
Today, to talk all things Malort, I have brought in the CityCast Chicago team, including lead producer Simone Alicea.
Hey.
Marketing director Caroline Patton.
Hello.
And marketing coordinator Jermaine Thomas.
What's good?
I'm going to be real with y'all. Malort is not something I have ever had in my entire life. And growing up is not something we learned about, right? Everybody knows about deep dish pizza, about hot dogs, about mild sauce, at least where I'm from. Malort is not one of those things.
All right, Jacoby, now it's your turn.
Shout out to the old Swede, Carl Jepsen. When I go ahead and get this on mic.
That is a fat shot.
Ooh, there it is.
I see how they got through Prohibition selling this, because this tastes like rubbing alcohol. This is not liquor. This should go in the womb with a huge knife wound in it. Just pour it right in.
It's given antiseptic, 100%.
Yeah, and it's sitting in your face. It just stays in your mouth.
It does.
I see why they will wash it down with a beer after that.
Yeah.
Because you need something to just like fill your mouth after that. Like, I feel like I just drank sort of that old school, like Dr. Tishner's mouthwash, you know, the one you got to cut with water. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. That's what it feels like right now.
You have kept a remarkably straight demeanor despite that description, actually.
Yeah, that's because I knew I was being recorded right now. But no, the inside of my mouth feels ripe. It feels like I just took a layer of skin off.
Okay.
The inside of my mouth.
But talk about there's pretty zero burn, right? It's like it doesn't taste good, but the going down part, it's pretty smooth.
I will say that no, it only burns in my mouth,
Right.
not going down the gullet. Like swallowing it was fine, but the actual mouthwash swish, it was not fun. Like the aftertaste is still here on my tongue.
Okay, can you describe what does Malort taste like?
Well, I just had a sip of it, so I'll start. If you've ever had a bite of like a piece of romaine lettuce that's like it's like bitter for whatever reason. I maybe not everyone has had that sensation, but like specifically a piece of romaine lettuce that's bitter, that's what it tastes like to me in alcohol form, personally.
That is so specific. Jermaine, what does it taste like to you?
I'm definitely gonna stick with the licorice of it all. I also thought about like the purple Listerine flavor that used to come out, like the purple and brown Johns. Like is giving that too. It's just like it's very strong. The flavor is gonna hang out for a long, long time.
Right, sure. It burns a little bit on your tongue. Yeah, that's fair. Well, yeah, I challenge you to do it one more time, Jacoby, and chase it with a cold beer. Personally, not the best alcohol I've ever had, but for a cheap, well shot at the bar with a cold beer after, I'm telling you, it really, really is not that bad. And it's often on the beer shot combos list for like $7, you get a beer shot, which like, pretty good deal.
I feel like at this point now, I got to tell you guys about my first time ever having Malort, because here's how this went for me. I definitely had heard about it when I was in college, but had avoided, being peer pressured into taking a shot. And then when I moved back, shortly after I moved back to Chicago in 2021, hear lots of water bottles going as we wash the taste out here. Shortly after I moved back to Chicago in 2021, I was out with a friend, and of course he was like, "You've never had Malort? Well, now we have to have Malort." And I was in Andersonville, no less, and I took the shot and immediately puked. Like immediately had to go to the bathroom. It was like, so you want to talk about how it doesn't burn, quote unquote, it burned both ways. Like it was not,
yeah.
It was not pretty.
It's not a liquor you want to throw up. It's definitely not a liquor you want to throw up.
And apologies to any listeners who are squeamish about that kind of thing. Jermaine, what was your first time like?
Well, coincidentally, my first time was actually with Caroline. Crazy. It was after we had a work together day. Hashtag we love CityCast. It rocks here. And at the end of our work day, everything got done, and Caroline was like, "Oh, like y'all never had Malort," because me and Mariah, our other coworker, we had both never had it. So Caroline being Caroline, she was like, "Let's have it. Like, let's take a shot. It's the end of the day. Like, let's go." So I was like, "Sure. Like, I'm down. Whatever." And I took it, and it was like going in the mouth. I was opposite. Like taking it down was easy. It was the long tail, like the way that it like fills your entire esophagus with like the hottest licorice flavor I've ever had in my life. That was the kicker for me. And like after that, I tried water, had another drink, I left, went home, went to sleep, and the flavor was still in my throat. It just wasn't giving.
You were like, "No, I don't need a chaser." I was like, "Are you sure?" Mariah was like, "I'll take a Sprite." You were like, "No, I don't need one." I go, "All right, okay." Then
Caroline, you're the resident Malort liker in this group.
Yeah.
If I am on the very other end of that spectrum, what was your first time like? What was the first time you had it, and what happened?
I remember the first time I took it. This was like years ago. Like I had the same reaction as everyone else, which is this doesn't taste good. But then I'm like, what alcohol does taste good if you think about it? Like in theory, alcohol doesn't taste good. No alcohol tastes.
It's not.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Añejo, Cava del Oro.
It's not tequila. Juice though. It's still bitter. It still comes down. It still burns. Like you can't be like, oh, alcohol tastes like grape juice. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. If you think about it, it doesn't taste good. So to me, all alcohol tastes bad.
Yeah.
And so I don't find it to be
Malort
that
just
bad.
Tastes worse. I think that's the thing. Like you're correct. Like not all alcohol is like wonderfully tasting, but like Malort is like worse than like a lot of other ones.
Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely worse. I agree. But I don't mind it. I don't think it goes down that bad. Like I don't find it to be a bad shot. It doesn't make me gag. Like I don't think it tastes good, but I don't think it tastes bad.
Well, let's learn a little bit about Malort, where it comes from, what's going on. And what I have done is I've designed a little bit of a trivia game to help us learn. So here's how it's going to work. I am going to ask a question, and you have to wait until I finish the question. Jeopardy rules here. And when I finish the question, if you think you know the answer, you're going to say buzz. If you get it right, you get 2 points. If you get it wrong, another person can try and steal by calling buzz. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to start really easy and get it out of the way for Chicagoans who may not know. Can one of you tell me, what is a Chicago handshake?
Buzz.
Caroline, I heard first.
A shot of Malort and an can of Old Style.
That is exactly right. It's a Boilermaker that you can find
fast as hell
at pretty much any bar. There's a lot of beer history about how Old Style became like a beer of choice in Chicago, including like there was a lager beer riot in the 1800s. But I actually wasn't able to find why that started to be paired with Malort. My suspicion is it has to do with a later rise in Malort, which we'll get to in Malort's history.
I wonder if it has something to do with just Chicago handshake, prohibition. It feels like a real kind of gangstery vibe, but I don't know Old Style, how long it's been around, but it's got a gangster feel to it.
That's true. That's true. If you are trying to make a backroom deal, Malort is the drink you want to make it with. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, I think it's known as a Chicago thing, so it kind of feels like insidery in a way, which maybe also is like the Chicago handshake. It's like, oh, like if you know what Malort is and you've taken the shot, it's like
the secret handshake.
Yeah, we're like a gentleman's agreement that we know what it tastes like.
Question number 2. And again, wait until I finish the end of the question. What ingredient gives Malort its signature flavor?
Buzz.
Jacoby, I heard first.
Wormwood.
That is correct. Do you know what wormwood is?
Yeah, it's like a bitter herb.
Yeah. In fact, wormwood is the only flavoring in Malort. There's nothing else to it. It's thought to have some medicinal properties. It's supposed to be anti-inflammatory. So that's what you're tasting. You're tasting wormwood. It's a related question. Where else in a bar might you find wormwood?
Oh, wow.
Buzz.
Jermaine.
Is it gin?
No, it is not gin. Does anyone want to steal?
Damn.
Buzz?
Caroline.
Like bitter, like in a bitters?
Nope. Jacoby, you got something?
Absinthe.
Ding, you got it.
Crazy.
Oh, right. It makes sense because it's licoricey. It's like a licoricey taste. That makes sense.
So in absinthe, there is a chemical in wormwood that's supposed to be responsible for like the mind-bending, like crazy effects. It's also poisonous if there's too much of it, if you ingest too much of it. But Malort actually has a much, much, much lower concentration of that chemical. So that's why it's more bitter than absinthe is. I actually like absinthe. I like licorice. Malort does not taste like absinthe, in my opinion. I think they do not taste related to me in the slightest.
I feel like absinthe, Malort, and Everclear are now the sort of like the 3 liquors that my brain has now associated with. Do not touch these.
All right. Question number 4. Jeppson's Malort, as we know it, wasn't mass produced until the 1930s, but immigrant Carl Jeppson managed to skirt the law to sell his version of the Swedish spirit during Prohibition. How did he do it?
Buzz.
Jacoby.
He was able to do it because it was like medicinal alcohol. It gave it a special labeling.
That is exactly right. It was considered a medicinal drink. Malort marketing officials like to tell this story that anytime police tried to give Jeppson a hard time, he would offer them a shot. The officers would take it, and then they would make the Malort face, right? And they'd be like, this guy can move along with his day. Clearly, this is not a recreational liquor. Jeppson apparently sold Malort out of a suitcase or even door to door. For a bonus point, can anyone tell me, what does Malort mean in Swedish?
Chernobyl. Oh, no.
No, that's in Russian.
I was ready to answer that.
I've been told this before, but I don't remember.
I don't know.
It is a bitter distilled spirit. That's literally what it means. Bitter distilled.
Love that.
Spirit.
I love that. That is
good. Can you give a bonus point for in Russian? Because I was ready for that.
No, I wasn't.
I was ready for that one.
No bonus point for Russian. Last question. Jeppson's Malort was produced in Chicago until 1986, when the city's last distillery closed. Production returned to Chicago in 2019. Where was this bitter drink made in the intervening years?
Buzz.
Jacoby.
I knew Simone was in charge, so I knew there was a game effect, which means I needed to do some research. And so, of course, it was made in
No, the whole point
Florida.
was that you were not supposed to do research, Jacoby.
Florida.
It sounds like there's a little bit of collusion going on, people.
I told
That's
him,
what I heard, Caroline.
I told him not to do any research. I gave him this direction. Okay.
She's only made 600 episodes of the podcast with me. One thing I do not do is no research.
For
Florida.
Anyone,
can I get my points?
You
Florida.
get 2 points, but for a bonus point up for grabs, does anyone want to name the other? It was actually made in one other place for 2 years. Anyone want to try to guess where that was?
I'll let somebody else go first.
Buzz.
Jermaine.
Wisconsin?
No.
Damn.
I don't have a guess. I don't know.
Jacoby, do you know?
Kentucky.
It is
Okay.
Kentucky.
That makes sense.
It is
That makes
Kentucky.
sense.
So the final score here is 2, 4, 5, 7 points for Jacoby and 2 points for Caroline. Jermaine comes away with no points here.
This is terrible.
Hey man, Jermaine, you've been on enough episodes now. Any competition, you know what I'm trying to do.
Next time I'm coming back ready. Promise.
Malort reminds me, and its story reminds me of the conversation we just replayed for people with David Hammond and Monica Ang. Because I remember making a point to Monica like, man, with all these foods from different cultures, feels like such an opportunity to bring Chicagoans together. And she was like, actually, on the contrary, Kobe, what I learned was that these individual foods kind of teach us just how strong our segregation is. And Malort is a product of like so many cool things in Chicago, an immigrant coming to this city, bringing their culture and their customs with them. But as somebody who grew up on the South Side my entire life, I did not know the story of Malort. I did not know the resonance it held for some Chicagoans. I didn't know there was a handshake involved. And so what's cool is, on one hand, we're able to have these really strong traditions that have such huge stories, huge love, huge character behind them. And yet because of the story of our city at large, they can be just captured in a bubble of a neighborhood or a community area.
I will say, Jacoby, though, it's not just an issue of segregation. It's what's really interesting is when you read up about the history of Malort is for so much of its history, yes, it was still kind of like a joke shot you gave your friends to get them to make a silly face, but it was like you couldn't find it at every single bar in Chicago. Like that wasn't really the thing. And that didn't really start until the sort of late 2000s, early 2010s. It started to become like a meme online, and it became particularly among transplants. So it makes sense that me, Jermaine, and Caroline would have these experiences where we come to Chicago and like people are trying to make us take it, because that's actually how it started. So it's actually not that weird that you, as the native Chicagoan, maybe weren't as familiar with it. All of this begs the question, Jermaine and Caroline, why do you guys think Malort has had such staying power in Chicago, and why is it the thing that Chicagoans want to show off?
Well, I'm making it stay, maybe more than anybody, because I have a good amount of people visit me, because I'm like really one of the only people out of my friends I grew up with that left. So like a lot of people will come up and visit me, and they're trying Malort before they leave. What really, because in my head, like when I travel, I want to do the thing that's local that maybe like you should do that maybe isn't the most touristy thing. And to me, that is a little bit kind of like Malort.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Malort is like a memory maker, because the first and last time I had it, I'll never forget that. It's very like visceral in my mind. And I can always like say that I had it, and I remember the laughs. I remember like what it tasted like. I remember who I was with, where I was at, Green Street, smoked meats, all that good stuff.
Can you tell that Jermaine works in marketing? Like you should like work for Hallmark. It's like so beautiful.
Well, I think that's the other funny thing about this. It's so funny that we have both of you here, because so much of like Malort's popularity actually comes down to like a marketing, like it's a product of marketing.
That makes sense.
Right? Like that's what this
Absolutely.
whole thing is. Which I don't know if that takes away from like the locality and like the genuine like authenticity of it. I will say, though, I do think it represents Chicagoans' commitment to the bit. I respect that.
If you follow every great local thing back far enough, doesn't it probably come down to some cool story or some marketing attempt
Probably.
at some point in its history?
And we'll say that about Chicago, too. I mean, we always say Chicago is the birthplace of such cool stuff. Also, we're really good at talking about all the cool stuff that happened here.
Hey, I just want to give another huge thank you to the CityCast team. Shout out to lead producer Simone Alicea. Shout out to Caroline Patton. Shout out to Jermaine Thomas. Appreciate y'all joining us for yet another episode of The Team Does Cool Shit. Now I'm going to take this over to Bernard. And the homie Tune. All right, handing both of them a shot of the Malort, and let's see their reactions. Bottoms up, fellas.
Damn. That's pretty good.
So Bernard actually liked it. Tell me how you feeling.
Smooth to me.
All right, so these are some drinkers. They both liked it. No reactions. Face took it straight up, and they both enjoyed it. Would y'all drink that again? All right, so far, 4 people that had it, and we 2 for 2. 2 people said they would drink it again. It was smooth. The other people looked like they wanted to throw up a little bit. Before I let you go, some good news. If you're still looking for things to do with your family this weekend, check out the Chicago show calendar, a weekly list of some of the concerts taking place across the city every week. They got 33 shows listed for today alone, ranging from pricey to free. I'm still trying to decide between FemDot and No Name tomorrow night. It's updated weekly on Instagram. You can find the link in our show notes. All right, we're taking a little break for the holiday, so we'll be back in your feeds on Monday. Until then, we want to give a huge thank you to the people who make CityCast Chicago possible. That's executive producer Simone Alicea, producer Michelle Navarro, our newsletter editor Sydney Madden, our producer Grant Irvin. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. And my last thank you is for you. I am extremely thankful for you riding with CityCast Chicago, for subscribing to Hey Chicago, for sharing us with your friends and family, for rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you listen. It means the world to us. And if you celebrate the holiday, I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope none of your drunk family members ruin it for everybody else. Talk soon. Peace.